Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This webinar is for our most remote partners from South America, Canada. And it's also the last webinar for this session. Next week, it's in cosmetics. I suppose most of you will not be coming because of the pandemic, but also because of the war. Anyway, in cosmetics is a great period to reflect on all the ingredients and to collect all the new developments that were done. And there are quite some new developments of the last year. And I will show you the overview for today. So there are a bit different things so that nobody really gets bored. There must be something that might be interesting for you. So first we will talk about the new launch of GOSULIN rice. And we also have interesting data about the skin microbiota in the sun. So what happens to the skin microbiota in the sun and what can a prebiotic do? We also have some data about the prebiotic in acne skin and how to treat it. And then we have some smaller data, but therefore not less interesting. Some data about prebulin C90 in masks, how to make a peel-off mask, and then UV creams with NeoCare P3R. So we have quite some different stuff, and let's start. Our latest ingredient is GOSULIN rice. And as you probably already guessed, it is an ingredient based on rice. But actually, why a rice product? Because we have already Remitec FI, which is quite popular. But Remitec FI is a product from upcycling. So the rice starch on itself is not always standardized. The quality can change. And it's mainly used to clean the skin. GOSULIN rice, on the other hand, is based or is inspired on the popularity of rice water. If you go on the internet and you type rice water, you will see quite some YouTube movies about ladies showing how beautiful they became by using rice water. But this is actually not new rice water. It was for the first time used by the women at the court of the Japanese emperor. And then later it was continued by the geishas to clean, to make their skin beautiful. Now, there are some disadvantages of rice water, and the first one is the safety. When you make rice water immediately after boiling, it's safe, but 2 days later, it will be full of fungi and bacteria, and that is not safe to use anymore. Also, on the other hand, we wanted to make a rice starch that is sustainable. And there is not really a good definition for sustainability, but in all the questions regarding sustainability, there is one thing that always comes back. The customer is, of course, interested in the activity of the product, but for sustainability, they also want to know everything about this product. Where is it coming from? How is it produced? How much CO2 did you produce? How much water did you consume? They want to know really everything. Well, GOSULIN rice is an ingredient where we really know a lot of. And last thing, although rice water is efficient, there is no proof. There is no proof of its efficiency. And this is something that GOSULIN rice will have. We have done many tests and you will see they are very convincing. There is no need for statistic analysis to see the efficiency. Okay, let's have a look. Where is our rice coming from? It's from organic farming, which is already very exceptional for rice, not so easy to find organic rice. And it's coming only from Europe. So from the south of France, from Greece, from Spain, Portugal, and Italy. So actually from the warm part of Europe. And then the rice is processed in Belgium, which is maximum 2,000 kilometers away. So in this way, we seriously reduce the transport cost. If you look at our Remitec FI, this rice is coming from all over the world, from Japan, from Asia, from South America, from America, and then of course the transport cost and the CO2 emission is much higher. So it's locally sourced and therefore sustainable. But there is more. This rice starch is natural. The way it has been treated to remove all the bacteria and fungi is through heat. But the heat treatment also had another purpose, is to make pores so that the product has a much higher absorption capacity as other starches. The rice on itself has a particular ratio of amylose and amylopectin. The ratio is so special that when you rinse off the rice, it will still stick to your skin, but it does not feel sticky. And that is quite particular because normally starches in water, they feel a bit sticky. This one, absolutely not. So it's a very elegant starch. Let's start with something very easy. Starch, we all think about absorption. So we decided to compare the absorption of GOSULIN rice with other absorption or absorbing material. And you can see that the GOSULIN rice absorbs 85% of his weight. This test has been done with jojoba oil because jojoba oil has the same density and the same structure as sebum. So actually this is also a measurement for how much sebum this rice can absorb. If you compare it to other rice starches, the other rice starches are 10 to 15% less in absorption. If you compare it to talc, which is well known for its absorption properties, then talc can only absorb 55% of its weight. Now, the master in our industry for absorption are silica beads. They can absorb an average of 100%. So their own weight they can absorb. But if you look at the price of silica beads and you look at the price of rice starch, this is completely different because I forgot to tell you, GOSULIN rice is not expensive. So we have here a not expensive, very performing absorption rice for mattifying the skin. Let's visualize this mattify. On the right side, you see a picture of an untreated skin. On the left side, you see the same skin, but treated with jojoba oil. So of course, you see the skin is shiny. In this way, we wanted to imitate sebum. And then we applied a cream with 3% GOSULIN rice, which is the middle picture. And then we see suddenly a lot of things. First of all, mattifying effect. The mattifying effect is immediate. But actually, this was a bit dumb luck. In that skin, there was a scar. In the middle, you can see that scar here. And you can see that the scar is masked by the rice. So the rice is not just absorbing, it's also blurring. And you can see that the skin is whiter than the original skin. So the rice starch is also acting a little bit like titanium dioxide. Now, when we did that test, we were only looking at absorption, mattifying, and we got blurring, lightening, and anti-blemish effect. We are still going to investigate further this whitening if indeed we can make makeup without titanium dioxide. But we did much more because another problem of oily skin are blackheads. You can see it on the first picture on the left on top. I know it looks disgusting, but that is how blackheads look like. They are 300 times enlarged, these pictures. And in the first test, we are going to clean them with a surfactant, with sodium cocoyl glutamate. In the middle picture, you see what happens immediately after cleaning the skin with a surfactant. So here you could see sebum. Here all the sebum is gone. So yeah, this is normal for a surfactant that it removes the oily components. But after 1 hour, the sebum is back as before. So when you have a greasy skin and you wash your skin with a surfactant, doesn't matter which one, yeah, actually you will not reduce the mattifying effect because in less than 1 hour, you're back as in the beginning. However, if you clean your skin, and yes, cleaning, not treating your skin with the GOSULIN rice, 25%, we also started with some nice, beautiful blackheads in one application. So this is immediately after application and after rinsing the rice away, you can see that the pores are unblocked. The blackhead is gone. And you can also see some white deposit of the rice. As I told you, the rice cannot be removed so easily by rinsing. 1 hour later, you see that the skin is still matte. And we were actually lucky that in one person, we could see what happens. Here, sebum is coming out of the gland, but the rice is capturing it. So you have a mattifying product in rinse off. To my knowledge, I never saw that before. All the mattifying products are in leave on, never in rinse off. But what happens now if you use less? Because maybe you are seeing this 25% and you think, wow, this is really a lot. What happens if you use less? Well, we went up to 5%. At 25%, you will remove 90% of the blackheads. 20%, 80% of the blackheads will be gone. And at 10% rice, you remove more or less 50%. So less rice, less blackheads will be removed. And it's a little bit up to the customer how much he wants to use. Of course, if you use twice a product with 10%, you will have almost the same effect as once at 25%. But now what happens if you use that product for a longer period? Because the pictures you saw in a moment were immediately after one application. Well, the pores after 1 week using that product will be reduced with 60%. And this is permanently. This is not just once. This is picture that you see here is taken 1 day after the last application to really see if the pores are really reduced. And this is after 1 week with rinse-off conditions. So we didn't leave on the rice, the GOSULIN rice on the skin. So GOSULIN rice is actually a very interesting product to mattify the skin, but also to mask imperfections of the skin. So in makeup, it can be used definitely, but also in masks and in facial washes. So all the applications are in makeup and in oily skin treatment. Now the inky is not spectacular. It's the same inky as Remitec FI, but the rice is, I would say, chemically different. And also the pores are much larger than in Remitec FI. Remitec FI has a particle size of around 8 micrometer. This one is 4 micrometer. That's also why you get a better absorption. But let's go back to the real passion of GoBiotics, the skin microbiota. The question I really got a lot the last years is what happens to the skin microbiota in the sun? And also, can a prebiotic help the skin microbiota in the sun? Of course, I always said, yes, a prebiotic theoretically should help, but honestly, we never did any tests. Well, during the pandemic, we had time to do these tests, and we were investigating what happens to the skin microbiota in the sun. Theoretically, you can find a lot of information about it, and it's not very good news for the microorganisms. Their cell wall will be disrupted, which means, like for us, when our skin goes open, everything what is inside will leak out. But also their proteins, which are the building blocks of the microorganisms, are disrupted, and their plasma is oxidized. So the communication in the cell will be wrong. So the cell cannot work very well. And also the mitochondria, which are actually The power plant of the cell will be disrupted. And we all know what happens when there is no electricity, no computer, no light, nothing. So the cell dies. But also their DNA will be mutated. And mutated DNA means that the microorganisms become something else. So that means that in the sun, or the skin microbiota will die, or the skin microbiota will not be your skin microbiota. I cannot help myself to make a small public promotion of the skin microbiota. Why do we have a skin microbiota, or what is a skin microbiota doing? Well, it's keeping our skin clean. It removes the dead skin cells, it removes the sebum, the oxidized lipids, and in return, it also produces antimicrobial peptides, preventing infections from pathogens, but also prevents the colonization of fungi. And it is also said that the skin microbiota regulates our inflammation process during sun exposure. It also protects us against skin cancer and produces the most powerful free antioxidants like SOD and ROXP. And last but not least, the skin microbiota hydrates the skin. So these are all very interesting benefits that we would need during sun exposures. Let's have a look what happens to the skin microbiota in the sun. Well, we tested, of course, on healthy persons. So these are persons whose skin was fully charged with bacteria and healthy fungi. And you can see here the blue bar, we start with 100% bacteria, the green bar, 100% skin fungi. And then the persons, they stayed 1 hour in the sun. And in 1 hour, your skin microbiota dies. There is nothing anymore on your skin, no life. We thought, yeah, maybe 1 hour we exaggerated. So let's see what happens if you go half an hour in the sun. It dies. 20 minutes, it dies. 15 minutes, it dies. So everything they tell you about the skin microbiota, it's not really true because there is no skin microbiota anymore when you are exposed to the sun. Maybe 10 minutes he's still alive, but we don't know. We stopped at 15 minutes. And that is a disaster because when the skin microbiota dies, the skin is left all alone. And that's probably why we have also so much problems during sun exposure because our big brother, our big protector is not there anymore. So no free radicals are captured, no protection against cancer, no hydration, no protection against bacteria and fungi. And we thought maybe our prebiotic will be able to protect the skin microbiota. That would be great. Well, let's see if it works. Here we are going to watch first only the bacteria of the skin microbiota. We have two arms. One arm was treated with an SPF 30 cream and the other arm was treated with an SPF 30 cream and 1% Prebiolin agar as a prebiotic. The dark blue bar is only the SPF protection. The light blue bar is SPF protection and prebiotic. And what happens after 20 minutes? Well, it doesn't matter if you use a prebiotic or not, the skin microbiota dies. I think we can compare the UV light to the atomic bomb. There is nothing that can protect you against atomic bomb. There is nothing that can protect the skin microbiota against UV light, not even sunscreens, because they all died. 2 hours later, we see a very timid recovery of the skin microbiota, but we will see in a moment that it is not really the skin microbiota that came back. 4 hours later, there we will see a big difference. 4 hours later, 50% of the bacteria that were there before are back. But you will see in the next slide that these are not your skin microbiota that came back. It were the bacteria from the environment that started to invade the skin. However, with the prebiotic, it was your skin microbiota that came back and 80% was recovered. So with a prebiotic, we cannot claim protects the skin microbiota in the sun, but we can claim it recovers. It makes the recovery easier and faster. Before I go on, I have to precise that the skin microbiota is in two parts. The first part we call the resident skin microbiota, and these are the microorganisms that protect you. But we also have the transient skin microbiota, the tourists. These are the microorganisms that are accidentally on your skin, and they are actually on your skin because they are also in the environment. And now let's have a closer look to what really came back. Again, the dark color, here the first slide is with just the SPF. And we started with 100% of the transient microbiome, so the useless bacteria, the unwanted one. And after 4 hours, 81% of the 100% are still there. So actually, your skin is still full of unwanted bacteria. If you use a prebiotic, only 66% came back. So prebiotic is actually helping to purify the skin from unwanted bacteria. But we also noticed that after 4 hours, 32% of the bacteria were new, had nothing to do with your skin, and were actually the ones of the environment. But now they could invade your skin because there was no skin microbiota. However, with a prebiotic, only 60% was new. Now let's have a look at the protective microbiota. Well, you see the dark bar is again for just SPF protection. All the protective microorganisms went seriously down with 50%. This is not a small thing. However, 3 of them were recovering with the prebiotic. Only the Staphylococcus epidermidis did not recover with Prebiolin agar. And now let's look at something completely different, fungi. What happens to the fungi? The same thing, they all die, but after 2 hours, you do not have 10% fungi back, but 250% fungi back. So after being in the sun, afterwards, 2 hours later, your skin is completely colonized by fungi. Why shouldn't they? There is no protection. They can freely invade your skin. After 4 hours, there is a small reduction with just the sunscreen, but with the prebiotic, they are much better reduced. So as a conclusion, we can say that a prebiotic does not protect the skin microbiota, but helps the skin microbiota to recover and helps the skin to recover from UV light. So actually, we tested it in an SPF cream, but you could also use Prebiolin agar in an after sun for afterwards when you are out of the sun. And then the other problem with the skin microbiota, acne. What happens when you use a prebiotic on an acne skin? Well, let's first have a look at the strategy we do today against acne. It's actually a very simple strategy. It's killing. We love to kill. We kill the C. acnes because he's responsible for the acne. But very often in the strategy, the Staphylococcus epidermidis is forgotten because he is responsible for acne. And of course, when you use some killing ingredients like salicylic acid, you will also weaken or maybe even kill the remaining protective microbiome. And this remaining protective microbiome is actually the only thing in your skin that could protect you from the C. acnes, but you also kill it. And what happens after a treatment like this? Well, the C. acnes will come back. Why shouldn't he? Because you still have sebum, which is his favorite dish. What I propose with a prebiotic is to combine a prebiotic with a killing ingredient like salicylic acid or other ingredients, then you will kill the C. acnes. We will see that the Staphylococcus epidermidis will be controlled, and we will see that the protective microbiome is coming back. And more than that, we didn't test this in a treatment, we tested this in a rinse-off wash. So this is also unique because there are not so many strategies in a wash. Everything is in a gel or in a cream. What did we do? We made 2 washes, and one wash was just with 10% sodium cocoyl glutamate. You see that the surfactant is not the reducing the C. acnes, which is okay. It's actually promoting the Staphylococcus epidermidis, and the protective microbiota is seriously reduced, as predicted. However, if you add to this 10% sodium cocoyl glutamate 1% Prebiolin agar, so a prebiotic, then you start reducing the acne. You have no effect on the Staphylococcus epidermidis. Also, he's not growing, but more important of this whole graph, the protective microbiome is recovered. So your natural protection against acne is coming back. That's why I believe it's a good strategy to add Prebiolin agar in an acne treatment. I'm not saying that with this you will reduce acne, but you will really make your skin healthier so that acne has less chance. And this is proven with this measurement. An ingredient that is much easier to incorporate in rinse-off products is Prebiolin phos. Prebiolin phos has a higher solubility. What is the difference? Not so much difference with Prebiolin agar because we did exactly the same test, but Prebiolin phos is also reducing the growth of Staphylococcus epidermidis. So it's actually a bit better. But for the rest, it's absolutely the same. And now we are going to leave a little bit the microbiome for what it is. And we are going to look at Prebiolin C90. That's an ingredient that we launched in 2018, mainly to take in glutamates to make transparent shampoos. But customers are more and more using Prebiolin C90 to make masks and serums, because Prebiolin C90 has a very nice silky skin feel. Masks are very popular, and actually masks, there is a difficulty because you cannot claim so much with a mask. If you add a peptide to a mask or even hyaluronic acid to a mask, you cannot claim the properties of these ingredients because these ingredients are all tested in leave-on, and usually they are tested for 28 days and then the effect is measured. But a mask is only 10 minutes on your skin and then you wipe it off. So it's very difficult to find ingredients that have an activity in these conditions. Well, there is one, it's Prebiolin C90. As you can see on this graph, we made a mask. Well, it's a big word, a mask. We made water with Prebiolin C90 and we kept it on the skin for 10 minutes. Then we wipe it off and then we measured the hydration, and the hydration improved with 71%, even in wipe-off conditions. So with Prebiolin C90, you can make hydrating masks. The claim is actually legally substantiated. We stay with the masks and we go to peel-off masks. Peel-off masks are also popular. These are these kind of masks. You put them on your face. After 10 minutes drying, you can remove them as one rubber. There are actually 2 ways to make a mask like this. The first one is a natural way with alginates. But then you have to make 2 products. In one product, you incorporate the alginate, and in the other product, you incorporate calcium ions, like for instance, calcium sulfate. And then just before using the mask, you have to mix the 2 and apply to your skin, and then you get this rubber effect. But the problem is that you have to mix that. And a beautician will maybe do this very well, But at home, the consumer might have problems. So it's a whole fuss to do that. That's why there is a second type of masks, and they are using PVP-VA. This is just one product which you apply on the skin, and after 10 minutes, you have a rubber. But PVP-VA is regarded as a microplastic, and more in our industry, these kind of ingredients are banned. Well, what can you do then? Then you can still combine Prebulin C90 with GOSULIN agave, and then you will also make a peel-off mask. I know it will be much more expensive than PVP-VA, but it is natural and it's microplastic free, and the performance is still very good. And the last thing we tested last year, is our sunscreen with NeoCare P3R. It's also a question I got a lot when I showed that sunscreen, what is the SPF? So we decided to measure the SPF according to the Colipa guidelines, and it's an SPF 30 in vivo, but it's also water resistant. So this is the formula which you have on GOBiotics land. So it's the agave sunrise cream. It's interesting for smaller customers who do not have the budget to do the measurement of SPF, so they can use that type of cream. To be honest, you can even change that formula. You cannot change the sunscreen, of course, but you can change the oils, because we made many variations for customers, and each time when the SPF was measured, it was an SPF 30. So these are the news from our company, which we will present at In-Cosmetics. This presentation is already on GOBiotics land. This session is recorded and will also be on GOBiotics land. So very soon you can look at this presentation or listen again to the presentation. If you have questions, please ask them. You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. It's like you want.